On the last problem you see on the test will be a word problem that involves writing two expressions and setting them equal to each other. So this problem is number 23 on the back side of the study guide. So number 23. And so let's take a look at the important information from this problem, and we'll try to gather enough to be able to write an equation to match it. So let's see, Bill has $350. So when he says has $350, this means that this is what he started with. He starts with this amount. Now he spends. So we got to think about what kind of word does that tell me we're going to do with this $20 per week. Now, when I see the word per, I start to think of, oh, this might be a variable amount right here. But I won't know until I get to the question. So spends definitely is going to tell me that I'm going to minus. And I'm going to minus $20, but per week. Now, if we go into the question, it says, when will they have saved, when will they have the same amount of money? After how many weeks will they have the same amount of money? It would have been another way to phrase that. So that tells us when will they save. That means that that is definitely our variable. We don't know how many weeks. So we're going to put a W right there in place of that. Well, we could go ahead and figure out the next part by looking at Will. Will has something different. He has $100 right now, and so he has a little bit less. But instead of spending, he saves. So what do you think the difference is between spends and saves? Well, spends means he has less money, but Will saves, so he has more money. So remember, he starts with 100, and since he's going to eventually have more, that means that we are adding. We're adding $5 each week. Each is one of those words, keywords, that tells us that we're dealing with a variable. And W could be our variable for the number of weeks, because that's the question. They're asking, when will they have the same amount? Well, I think we've got our problem figured out now. Let's go ahead and try to write an equation to match it. So when we do this, since we want to find out when they will charge the same, we're going to set Bill's equation equal to Will's equation. And so Bill has $350 to start with, so we can write that number down. And he spends $20 per week, so we said it should be plus negative 20W. And then this will equal Will's, so Will starts with 100. And he saves, so it's going to be a plus 5W. Well, now we're ready to solve. We've got our equation figured out, so we'll solve this by doing opposite operations. Let's pull this W term to the right-hand side. So we'll go ahead and add that to both sides. That'll cancel out the negative 220W. And when we do that, we're still left with that $350. And this equals 100 plus 25W. Well, from this point, what we can do now is subtract their two amounts they have started with. So we'll take away Will's $100 from Bill's $350, and that gives us the difference between their money that they had in the beginning of the problem. Which, if we do that subtraction, we get $250. This all equals 25W. Well, now we're ready to figure out how many weeks it's going to take them. And so we'll go ahead and divide by 25. Do the same thing on this side, divide by 25. Now, 25 goes into 25 one time, but it's more than one because we have that extra 0. So we have 1 time 25 goes into 25, and then since when we do the subtraction we get 0, we still have that extra 0 to bring down, so 10 is the number. So 10 weeks is what it takes for those two people to have the same amount of money. Now, pretty much all we're doing is we're subtracting the amounts they started with, 100 from Bill's 350, and then taking the difference and actually adding their two amounts together that they end up making, because one is spending, one is saving. So that means it's going to go twice as fast because they're not the same amounts, but it's going to go faster because one spends, one saves. So the time it takes is going to be less, as if they were both saving. And so 10 weeks is our solution there. Well, that's the type of problem you're going to see for the last problem on the test. You've got a few more to practice. Numbers 21 and 22 plus 9 on the front side.